This man received a call that his son was dead, but what he did next will leave you speechless.
My oldest son called and he said, "Dad, I'm sorry to tell you this, but Peter, my youngest son, he's dead." I asked him, I said, "What happened?" And he told me what happened, and I said, "Don't you let anybody touch him until we get there." It was an hour drive into Colorado Springs, and we didn't have cell phones. This was March the 4th, 2001. And so we got ready and praised God for the word. We knew that death and life is in the power of the words, and so we refused to speak any of our doubts and any of our fears. We spoke and agreed and said the first report is not the last report. As we were driving in, I was beginning to feel grief and sorrow and anything that anybody would feel. And so I just started resisting it. And out of nothing but faith, I just was saying, in the name of Jesus, I refuse to grieve. I refuse to get into anger, into grief, into sorrow. And when I did, prophecies started coming back to my remembrance. There was 2 instances where people who never knew me came up to me and said, "You've got 2 boys, and the younger is going to turn to the Lord before the older one does." And these were people that didn't even know me. They didn't know if I had 2 boys or how many kids I had. And they prophesied exactly what I needed to hear. And those prophecies hadn't come to pass. And it just finally dawned on my lightning fast mind that if those prophecies were really from God, then He had to live. Those prophecies helped me to focus, and I started laughing. And I told Jamie, I said, "This is going to be the greatest miracle we've ever seen." I saw it. And I said, "It's going to be awesome." And when we finally got into Colorado Springs, my oldest son came out and he said, "I don't know what happened, but 5 or 10 minutes after we called you, Peter just sat up and started talking." And when my oldest son called, he had been dead over 4 hours. He was already stripped naked. He was a white boy. He turned black, and he had a toe tag on, stripped naked on a cooler in a morgue. And he had already been pronounced dead and put in a morgue. And he just sat up and started talking between 4 and 5 hours with no oxygen to the brain. And he came back with no brain damage. God told you that you go heal the sick. He didn't tell you to pray for the sick. He told you to heal the sick. That's implying that we have authority. And the church is asking God to do what He told you to do. He told you to speak. You speak to cancer. You speak to whatever. You take your authority. And somebody says, "But I'm not the source. I can't heal anybody." Absolutely. But you've got the source living on the inside of you, and it's at your disposal.